Let's get started. Start with listening, and then learn new words and practice them in sentences.
Have you ever wanted to share a memorable experience in English but didn't know how? Imagine the power of recounting your favorite trip or an unexpected event with utmost clarity. That's the magic of storytelling, a crucial skill in mastering any language. In this video, we'll delve into the art of describing past experiences and weaving captivating English narratives. We'll explore past tense structures, sequencing words, and phrases that add emotion and detail. So, ready to embark on this storytelling journey? To tell a story, we need to dive into the past, and for that, past tense structures are your best friends. One of the most basic aspects of storytelling is setting the scene, and this often requires us to transport ourselves and our listeners back in time. To do this effectively, we need to be comfortable with past tense structures in English. There are two main past tense structures that we commonly use in storytelling: the simple past tense and the past continuous tense. Let's start with the simple past tense. This is used to describe completed actions in the past. For instance, we might say, "I visited Paris last year," or "She cooked a delicious meal for her friends." The verbs visited and cooked are in the simple past tense. They indicate actions that took place and were completed in the past. The past continuous tense, on the other hand, is used to describe ongoing actions or situations that were happening in the past. This tense is often used to set the scene or to describe the background in a story. For example, we might say, "It was raining when I arrived," or "They were watching a movie when the power went out." The phrases "was raining" and "were watching" are in the past continuous tense. They describe actions that were in progress at a specific time in the past. In storytelling, we often use these two tenses together to describe what was happening at the time something else occurred. For instance, I was walking down the street when I saw a celebrity. Here, "was walking" is in the past continuous tense, setting the scene, and "saw" is in the simple past tense, describing the completed action. Now, let's consider some common verbs we often use in these tenses. In the simple past, we might use verbs like went, said, did, saw, took, while in the past continuous, we often use verbs like was going, was saying, was doing, was seeing, was taking, and so on. Now, with these past tense structures, you're one step closer to telling your story. A great story flows seamlessly like a river, and sequencing words are the currents that guide it. Imagine you're recounting an unforgettable trip. You wouldn't just throw all the events into a blender and hit mix, would you? No, you'd arrange them in a logical order, making sure that one event naturally leads to the next. This is where sequencing words come in handy. First, let's talk about first. It's the perfect word to kick off your story. Let's say you went on a thrilling adventure to a tropical island. You could start with, "First, we boarded a tiny plane that would take us to the island." First immediately signals to your listeners that this is the beginning of your journey. Next in line is then. Then is a versatile little word that connects two events in time. You could say, "Then we touched down on a runway surrounded by lush greenery." Then shows that this event happened right after the first, keeping your story flowing smoothly. After that is another useful phrase. It's a bit more formal than then, and it gives your story a sense of progression. For example, "After that, we trekked through the jungle to reach our campsite." After that tells your listeners that this event happened sometime after the previous one, moving your story forward. Now, what about next? Next works similarly to then, but it often implies a list or a series of actions. For instance, next, we lit a fire and set up our tents. Using next here makes your story feel more like a sequence of steps, which can be very engaging. Finally, we have finally. Finally is a powerful word that signals the end or the climax of your story. Finally, as the sun set, we sat around the fire, sharing stories under the twinkling stars. Finally tells your listeners that this is the big finale, the moment they've been waiting for. With these sequencing words, your story now has a clear direction. A story without emotion and detail is like a movie without color. It's time to bring your story to life. Imagine you're in a conversation and you're recounting an experience you had. You've laid out the sequence of events, but your listeners seem a bit uninterested. Why? Because your story lacks the color and vibrancy that emotions and details provide. They're the magic ingredients that turn a simple narrative into a captivating tale. Suppose you're telling a story about a memorable trip you had. Instead of just saying, "I went to Paris, it was nice," you could say, "I embarked on a breathtaking journey to Paris, the city of lights. The moment I laid eyes on the Eiffel Tower glittering against the night sky, I was utterly spellbound. It was a sight to behold, and I couldn't believe I was actually there. Notice the difference? The second version is drenched in emotion and detail, using phrases like breathtaking journey, utterly spellbound, and I couldn't believe I was actually there. Not only paints a vivid picture, but also conveys your feelings about the experience. Similarly, if you're sharing a surprising event, rather than simply stating, I won a contest, you could enhance it by saying, out of the blue, I received a phone call. The voice on the other end announced that I had won the grand prize in a contest. It was an amazing, heart-stopping moment, and I could hardly believe my ears. By using phrases like out of the blue, an amazing, heart-stopping moment, and I could hardly believe my ears. You bring your listener into the moment with you, sharing not just what happened, but how it made you feel. Incorporating such phrases into your storytelling not only makes your narrative more engaging, but also more relatable. After all, we've all felt surprise, excitement, and disbelief at some point in our lives. Remember, the key to a captivating story lies not just in the events, but in the emotions and details that accompany them. By infusing your narrative with vibrant descriptions and heartfelt emotions, you make your listeners feel as if they're right there with you, experiencing what you're narrating. With these phrases, your story is now full of life and emotion. We've covered a lot of ground. Let's revisit the key takeaways. First up, we delved into past tense structures, the backbone of our storytelling. Remember, using the correct past tense is crucial to express actions or situations that occurred in the past. It's the difference between I eat an apple and I ate an apple. The latter takes us back to a time when you enjoyed that crunchy fruit. Next, we explored sequencing words. These are your road signs, guiding your listener through the journey of your story. Words like first, then, and after that help to structure your narrative and keep it flowing smoothly. Then, we turned up the volume on your storytelling with phrases that add emotion and detail. We looked at expressions like, I couldn't believe it, and it was amazing. These phrases are the seasoning to your story stew, adding flavor and depth to your narrative, making it more engaging and relatable. We've armed you with the tools, but remember, practice makes perfect. Spend time sharing your experiences, telling your stories. Use these techniques to add color and structure to your narratives. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel, and the better your stories will become. And that's how you tell a captivating story in English. Keep practicing, and soon, sharing your experiences will be a breeze.
Let's learn new words and practice English at level B1. Memorable, worth remembering, or easy to recall because it was special. Example, my trip to the mountains was a memorable experience because of the amazing views and fresh air. Unexpected, something that happens suddenly or is surprising. Example, we had an unexpected adventure when our car broke down, and we had to hike to the nearest town. Describe, to give a detailed account or picture of something. Example, I can describe the beach where we stayed as peaceful, with white sand and clear water. Eventful, full of interesting or important events. Example, last weekend was really eventful because we celebrated my friend's birthday and went to a concert. Challenge, something that is difficult or requires effort to overcome. Example, climbing the hill was a big challenge, but the view from the top was worth it.